Welcome to the Sleeping Barber podcast.
The good news for you, the actual recording is higher quality.
Is it?
Yeah, so all we have to do is record this and it will turn out even better than what we think this is going to be.
I'm going to touch up my face too.
Oh, yeah. Well, we do all of it here in post-production.
That's amazing.
What is this? Why are we here?
Why are we even here? Well, welcome back to another episode of our Barber's Brief. If you're a new listener, we use this forum to discuss what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks. We'd like to highlight our marketing moment, also known as the case study. We get into audience Q&A, and we wrap up with Ad of the Week. Ad of the Week. Ad of the Week. I don't know. There's like I'm again really excited to get into this. There's a lot of interesting news that kind of hit the waves over the last couple of weeks, and I like what you have already.
Yeah.
I want to kick us off on what's happened in the news.
Well, what I don't have, V, is an AI story. What I do...
I don't have one either.
I know,
think
this is so exciting. What I do have, though, is Red Lobster filing for bankruptcy because of shrimp.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean because of shrimp? Shrimp's on strike or something?
They refuse to get caught. So it is. I saw this headline pop up all over the place on the interwebs, as they say.
Sure.
It was so, interestingly enough, like we all know Red Lobster. It was the first casual dining chain to advertise on network television.
Okay.
They were also the first national seafood distribution in the 70s. They were big. They were well over billions of dollars back in like the 80s and 90s.
I didn't know they were that old.
They filed for bankruptcy on Sunday. And a lot of the sources citing this 20-year promotion they had, which was the endless shrimp promotion. So you dig into that story a bit more. There's a company called Thai Union that was ultimately the largest shareholder. There's been a whole bunch of ownership changes over the last few years.
Okay.
In the bankruptcy filing, a lot of people were blaming Thai Union because they're a canned seafood company that saw this promo as a way to sell off their product. So making some poor decisions. It's not just the promo. It's not just the ads. Not just the discount that drove the company under. Other factors include there's a bunch of handoffs from one investor group to another investor group. The mismanagement from Thai Union has been blamed. Years of underinvestment in Red Lobster's marketing, food quality, service, and restaurant upgrades. I find it started thinking about this as like, and then there's a growth of fast food and fast casual chains like Chipotle and Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
So to me, it was one of those almost like Kodak moment. For a company that was so innovative early on, they kind of just lost their way.
They lost their way.
Yeah.
You know what? Just looking at all those bullets there, it just shows the dysfunctional era that they actually started operating within. Like it's almost like at every turn there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and weirdly, and I mean, going back to our tagline, chasing profitability, I think in some ways we had this conversation before. You could see almost the retroactive decisions or the retrospective decisions of like, we just need to do this to get to get more profit. Cut, and then you're not investing in anything. So anyway,
I wonder if Boston Pizza's on its way as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
yeah,
because I know they've been closing a lot of locations, but
maybe.
Anyways,
what do you got?
Well, guess what?
What?
You probably saw this last week. Netflix is getting ads out. You probably saw but just wait.
Yep.
You probably saw that they announced a partnership with Google, DV360, the Trade Desk, and Magnite programmatic platforms to make essentially some of the inventory available.
Yep.
All behind this, though, they're actually looking to launch their own Adtech.
Yeah.
So this is just temporary. I feel like.
Yeah.
They want to actually go after Google and Amazon by building their own ad server, essentially an Adtech platform.
Yeah.
To help well, if you think about it, they're probably the number one streaming service.
I think so.
Especially
Yeah.
so I think it bodes well for them.
Yeah.
They have seen the ad-supported plan that they have out there has significantly increased monthly active users. So a lot of people opting for the ad version of the platform because of the cost. They are also looking to expand their programmatic partnerships globally in this first phase. So they right now, while they just announced, Trade Desk, DV360, and Magnite, they will look to add more. Here's the kicker. Netflix will test its Adtech platform in Canada this year and aim for a US launch by Q2 of 2025. So we get it first.
Amazing.
That doesn't happen very often. Canada doesn't get anything first.
Yeah. Although,
but this time we do.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, like I remember when I worked in pharma, we used to get these new CEOs rolling through every couple of years. And it was always explained to me that the reason for that is that we're small enough that if they fucked up, it wouldn't destroy any value, but big enough and close enough to the US that it could prove somebody's value. So could be that. It's a rounding error probably for Netflix, but not dissimilar to the US market in the way we operate.
Yeah, let's go test in that state called Canada.
Yeah, exactly. I just looked up Netflix, 270 million subscribers, number one. Number two is Prime at 200 million. Number three is Disney Plus at 153 million. Rounding out the top five, Max, never even heard of it. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a US thing. And Paramount. So there you go.
Paramount? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be number 5. Okay.
Yeah. But super interesting. Weirdly enough, we just signed up for Crave last night. And yeah, it's so funny because it's becoming more and more like regular TV. Like they had a schedule of like things you could watch live. I'm like, isn't this just TV? Like it's like the old, TV guide kind of thing.
Well, yeah, man. We used to have like the movie channels, right?
Yeah.
So you had a few the movie channel package, or you had the sports package, or you had like the home package, and you would just pick and choose this. And these streaming services, that's all you're doing right now. So if you want the movie package, like it becomes Netflix, or maybe you can bundle it. It's really interesting.
Totally
really interesting time.
Yeah,
really.
Okay,
what do you got next?
I got one for you. So this is kind of interesting. So in 2016, there was a study that came out that showed that marketers' ability to pick out an effective ad was about the same as flipping a coin.
With Kane's just around the corner.
Speaking of which, Can's music is it? How do you say Con,
I think it is.
The Festival of Creativity is around the corner. Andrew Tyndall from System 1 put up this great article on the drum. Looking at creatively awarded ads, as it turns out, they're average in terms of their effectiveness. So in this article, he goes in and talks about this paper that was written by Peter Field 15 years ago called Creativity and Effectiveness. And at that time, he looked at that. He said that creatively awarded campaigns were more efficient in terms of delivering bigger, for the same number of dollars of media spend. They were more effective at delivering a business result.
Okay.
So they had better efficiency. Fast forward to 2019, Peter Field looked at those findings again, except published a new report. Instead of saying this is still true, there's a crisis in creative effectiveness that he called it. There's a shift that he noticed that creatively awarded campaigns started becoming measured by short-term metrics. There's a dramatic reduction in media spend, and combined, those kinds of campaigns were delivering similar market share effects as campaigns that were not awarded for creativity. So Andrew did some digging, looked at System 1's data, and found in the last 3 years not much has changed. And so the story here is that effective creative is not the same thing as an award-winning creative.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because they have this giant effectiveness kind of movement, and WARC, I know, is doing a lot of work on creative effectiveness.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're embedded in the Cannes Festival of Creativity, which is awarding things for just creative.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I have a lot of opinions on that. The only thing I'll say here is awards in general, I think are great in terms of celebrating some incredible work that's happening, but I think we just have to be careful in how we're celebrating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it does wonders for the teams involved, I would argue culture and this kind of sense of building a sense of winning.
Yeah.
Outside of what you're trying to do organizationally. So I think they have a place, but I think we just have to make sure that we understand what is it that we're actually celebrating. And like you said, I think effectiveness versus something that is just creatively nice or good,
Yeah,
I think are just two different things.
totally.
Final one for me, and this one it stuck out to me. It was an opinion piece in Marketing Week by Russell Parsons. But the reason it actually popped out in my head was because just last week through work we did our Digi Day, which is essentially we bring a lot of our vendors together and we talk about either the latest technologies that are available, things that we could be doing differently, etc. But we had a theme. And our
Mhm.
theme this year was finding beauty in constraints.
Mm.
So the article itself is tighter budgets and effective choices. So I felt like there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah.
So the Russell goes through and he starts talking about like some of the economic challenges. So like marketers in the UK are facing growth targets that surpass the predicted economic growth despite some signs of recovery. But there's also citing a study from Gartner, which highlights that marketing budgets have fallen 7.7% overall of revenue. Sorry, have fallen to 7.7% of overall revenue to current year, down 9.1% to 2023.
Mhm.
That is a little, I don't want to call it concerning because I think it is more of a.
Sorry, is that 9.1 in last year, and then it went down to 7.7? Is that right?
It
Yeah.
went down to 7.7.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just indicative of the environment that we're actually operating in this year.
Mhm.
And this chase for profitability, a lot of organizations are probably doing it, I don't know, the wrong way, where you're cutting a lot of budgets and you're trying to show profitability by cutting like a lot of the peripheral spend.
Mhm.
We still want to make sure that we are driving as much of that effectiveness. But he goes in some industry insights, and he talks about strategic optimism. So despite these tighter budgets, some marketers view this as an opportunity to redefine, operations and drive positive change.
Yep.
And not just from a marketing lens, like organizationally.
Yeah.
So where are you trying to find, more of that efficiency, which I think is the right call. It also talks about like generative AI in the context of how to use it. So there is relative optimism in helping what generative AI can help from a process perspective internally.
Yeah.
We sat through a presentation, sort of not you and I, but like during Digiday, a presentation that Microsoft did for us that talked about AI. You need to treat it as your executive assistant or as
Right.
and it's using it to help you with some of those day-to-day tasks that
Right.
usually just take up a lot of time. So you think about taking notes in a meeting, you have AI to do that for you right now, so you can be even more present, if you will, in the discussion.
Yeah.
The last couple things here. So paid media investment has grown 27.9% of overall budgets, with a shift towards digital channels, which are now receiving 57.1% of paid media allocation. So because of the versatility in digital budgets, being able to move money in and out of different tactics, I think a lot of marketers do tend to navigate to that, which does put at risk some of those traditional spends in linear TV,
Yeah.
I would argue radio, etc.
Yeah. I just saw globally, by the way, I think from work, Facebook's ad spend has surpassed linear TV.
Yeah. It's bonkers.
Like all of linear TV.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And then finally, he's calling this I guess it would be like the fourth point, marketing resilience. So despite economic challenges, there's a trend of businesses that may need to find more funds. And even last year, even though there was overall decrease, Q4 businesses were able to find more money. So I think that's something that we can look forward to into going into Q4 this
Mm-hmm.
year. But with a net balance of 14.7%, companies making upward revisions to help fourth quarter growth. So I think at the end of the day, is we need to navigate this time in this space. I think it's just only natural that we can get a little bit apprehensive on when our budgets are being cut.
Yeah.
But I think there are ways that we can look at this as an organization in totality and find ways to be more efficient in some areas, and just really start rooting ourselves back into things that matter. So
Yeah.
even from a marketing perspective, like the promise to the customer is a great framework. Like, so you have some money, what are you actually putting out there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Anyways, it's a good read. We'll link it, obviously. I thought it was good.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's interesting too. Like, I wonder with that tighter budgets, how much of those budgets, and we talked about this before, but how much is going into ad tech versus
Oh
what
yeah.
should it be going into? You know what I mean? Like, I know you've talked about this before, but reach matters a lot. And so if you're cutting budget to spend more on tech and less on reach, like, is
Yeah.
that the right thing?
Yeah, and the other sometimes is like when you're preparing for some of these larger campaigns, there's a disproportionate. Oh my gosh, you English, come on, you can do this. Amount spent in the actual, you know, shooting of the ads
Yeah.
and things like talent and whatnot, and then not enough on the media side. So it's almost like, again,
Yeah.
making sure that you have the right balance between what you're putting in to create the ads versus what you can actually use to
Totally.
amplify the ads.
Totally. All right. I've got a marketing moment, a case study.
Let's
I
go.
went to the well again. Another one of Mark Ritson's Effie's classics.
The gifts on giving.
They are so good. They're really good. I just love
They
how
are
they're
really good.
structured.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is on tourism Australia specifically. There was a new tourism ad that I was actually looking for because Tourism Australia did another one with Will Arnett just last year or the year before. I can't remember.
Oh, I vaguely remember
Yeah,
that.
it was really good. But anyway, I couldn't find a really substantive case study, so I used this one. So the background here. So Tourism Australia, and the big insight is that strategy before tactics, always.
Always.
So from 2007 to 2017, so a 10-year period, tourism visits to Australia was up by 11%. Stupid AI thing. I gotta fix that. Tourism was up by 11% overall. So visitation to Australia was up, but Americans, I should say, weren't really increasing in line with the general tourists that were visiting the country. So Tourism Australia is like, it's a big market. We've got a couple challenges to get people here. Awareness wasn't one of them. So the big problem and nor was desire. So the big problem, if you think about the funnel as a metaphor, the big problem what they had discovered was that in comparison to the UK, France, Italy, Americans had half of the amount of intention to visit down under that they did those other countries. So they were aware of it and they wanted to go there, but they just didn't have the intention to get there. So some of the barriers to that include high travel costs, length of flight, not enough time to travel,
Right.
which to me, as I was reading through this case, I'm like, right, physical availability. You know what I mean?
Ding,
Like
ding, ding.
mental awareness is super high, but it's just a long way to go.
It is a long way to go.
Yeah. And you need to commit. I mean, anytime I've thought about it, like, I'm like, I don't know if 2 weeks is even enough because,
That's the thing.
right? And so there's that. So those are real objections. So campaign strategy, they had a few objectives. One was to increase the intention of travelers from the U.S. Business objective was specific, going from U.S. spend of $3.7 billion a year to $6 billion per year by 2020. So this is 2017 that they started formulating this plan. So basically, it was a 3-year period, almost doubling revenue from U.S. tourists. They had a target of a high value traveler. So this was somebody who spent more and traveled more often. And the positioning for the strategy was a beautiful place to meet refreshingly irreverent people.
Okay.
So the campaign, they launched it right at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So what they started with was what looked like a movie featuring Danny McBride. That's the Eastbound and Down guy.
Yeah.
And so it looked like a paid, like it looked like a movie release, like a
Okay.
theatrical trailer. So it was going to be what appeared to be a movie for the son of Crocodile Dundee.
Hmm.
And so he's doing that's not a knife, and he's doing the whole thing, right? But it's pretty comical. So that was the first part. Then they come up with another trailer released during Super Bowl, but this time featuring Danny McBride as the son of Crocodile Dundee, but featuring also Chris Hemsworth, who's Australian.
Right.
And then they start getting into some stuff there. It then is revealed that it's a fake trailer, fake movie promo, and it's really just this travel tourism ad.
Right.
So from that point on, then they start loading in promos for tourism visits. They start bringing the characters on, like Danny doing partnerships with Qantas Airlines to address some of the concerns that people had, like, it's so far to fly. How do you fly? Like, what are
Right.
tips on flying and all those kinds of things. And so that carried for at least this year into 2018, 2019. And the results were, it was the most viewed ad in Super Bowl. It won a gold Effie for its impact. Intention, that number that we talked about before, increased by 83%. And then at the time of the report, or the time of the case study, there was a 13% increase in bookings from American tourists in the first year. So I don't know. They weren't able to say how far they got and how close they got to the $6 billion number, because this was done in 2018 or 2019, I believe. So we don't know what the total impact was, but just a really cool case study for tourism.
I'll be honest. Sometimes I miss my time in aviation, because like you got to see a lot of these really great campaigns upfront and personal.
Yeah.
Just on how do you drive more of that mental awareness, the intent to travel, and it's a whole other industry which has nuances. And this case study really kind of had me reminiscing a little bit,
Yeah.
because it's a great industry to, if you want to work on the sense of the why travel.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this is a great one.
What's also funny is there's separately, I found a case study from the Amber Bass Institute on tourism and the most visited places. So it's no surprise that Italy, France, and what was the other one?
Of course.
Italy, France, and the UK had higher intention, because that's most tourists, and it's shorter.
Yeah.
And so, like, thinking about reducing the barriers to physical availability is actually a really interesting concept as well. Yeah,
Totally. Oh, great example. Thanks, Mark Squared.
Yeah. Thanks for the gift that keeps giving, Mark Ritson and Effie's. Okay, Q&A, V.
This is a quick one, and I'd love your take. So I talked about like our Finding Beauty in Constraints thing that we ran last year, but I got a lot of questions and from a few different people, and saying like, if I was CMO, where would you begin to find efficiency in marketing? And I thought that'd be a great question that we just kind of unpack quickly here. And do you have any thoughts before I go?
Why don't you go first? And I know you've thought about it a little bit more.
I have thought a little bit, but I kind of alluded to it earlier when we are talking about like tighter budgets and things to that effect. But when we came across the promise of the customer, I think that was a really what's the right word? It really allowed me to look at things a lot differently in the context of what is it that we should be doing. So the first place I would look when you do have money right now and you have an ability to spend, put a campaign out into the market, you have to be very, very purposeful in what is it that you're
Yeah.
supporting. So I think using the lens of the promise to the customer is a great place to
Yeah.
start. Obviously, testing the ads is also important. And while a lot of people would say like that, you're wasting money, you're not wasting money, especially in a constrained environment. It's probably even more important that you're testing this. But using the lens of the promise to the customer can do two things for you. I believe it can help create the intention that you need and the action that you need from your consumer a lot quicker, instead of just trying to put out marketing or put out campaigns in the air to help build an affinity towards a brand, but without something
Yeah.
tangible, right? I think this is where we have to be a lot more purposeful in these constrained environments. So the first place I would look, like, if I have a message out there, what is that message meant to do? What is it doing, and how is it being positioned? And then the second thing is I would try to make sure that when I'm looking at it from a spend perspective, what the channels that I'm spending most of my time on, I'm prioritizing things like reach over, frequency and even some of those like remarketing audiences. And now this is going to be somewhat contrarian, because you're going to hear everyone talking to you about, well, you need to make sure you have really strong retargeting tactics in place to help drive more of that familiarity, etc., or that repeat purchase. I think we've come to know that right now it's less about that. Those people will find their way to you. If you want to find genuine growth, you're just prioritizing reach as much as possible. So you're really trying to amplify or prepare yourself for the future growth of the organization versus being too hyper worried about everything else that's happening.
Hey, Connor.
So those are the two areas that I would go. Hey, Connor.
How are you?
We're just wrapping up a Barber's brief thing.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to leave and come back?
We're going to leave this part in, I think.
This is good. Well, why don't we ask you this?
Oh, yeah. We can ask
If
you.
you're
Okay, go.
We're going to put you on the spot. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ready? This is yes or no answer. If you're a CMO, what would you do to be more effective?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
I maybe I framed the question appropriately, but anyway, V, I agree with you. Like, I think the promise to the customer is really there's some simple frameworks like that are. I mean, it's not simple. It's really insightful, but it's practical, and it's. I think it's also very tangible. Like, I think I agree with you. Reach matters. I'd focus a lot more on reach. And I would focus also on, I'd start actually, you know what, how I'd start is understanding the category entry points, and then being more selective as to which ones we're going to go after. And then using that in combination with the promise to the customer as a way to kind of structure the messaging around the promise to the customer, and then layering in reach. And so with the same amount of budget, I think you could probably have a pretty substantial impact on effectiveness and efficiency just by doing those three things.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say category entry points is kind of like the third one, but I could see how, like, if you were to use them up front first, identify the category entry points that you really want to go after, using the promise to the customer lens against that, and then prioritize reach in your media execution, I think is a sure way to win.
Yeah. So,
guess what's next, Mark?
Out of the week. Oh yeah, out of the week.
Out of the week. We
Go
have
for
out
it.
of the week. So, everyone saw last week. Oh, I guess it's been a couple weeks that Apple just got crushed from everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Literally got crushed. I'm not going to highlight that ad because I think that everyone's talked about it. It's great. It's fine. But how about no one's really talking about what Samsung did off of the heels of that? And there was this great ad that they put out that there's no paid promotion, by the way, behind it. It's only 100% organic. But what they did is essentially they had an artist that basically picked up the broken guitar and kind of put it together and then just started strumming music once again, right? It kind of amplified this idea that, you can't crush creativity. I thought it was just such a timeless way to attack one of your main competitors in a real creative
Mhm.
way that I think resonated with a lot of different people. And I have to applaud the speed at which that ad came out in. Like it was one of those, like, within 2 weeks it was
Yeah.
already out. And yeah, I thought it was a great way to kind of highlight the big miss, because like Apple had to issue an apology. The the industry reacted in a very very
Totally.
disgruntled way, as they should have. I think it did miss the point, but it opened the door for competitors, and
Yeah.
Samsung took advantage of that. So I thought it was a really fun way and cheeky way of them to
Yeah.
go about
Yeah,
that.
I saw that. It was a really cool ad. I actually really like that. Yeah.
Coming up
who we
next
got,
week,
Pete?
well, we have Connor, and he's on right now. He's so eager to record. He's already joined us,
Hey.
which is awesome. So how about Connor? What are we talking about? I'm gonna put you on the spot, buddy.
Cannes. The Cannes
Oh,
Line
here we go.
Festival
You
of
you just
Creative.
solved our
right.
first question, which was how do you say can or con? It's can. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, now we know.
Well, I'm not French, but
Mais oui, monsieur.
Yeah, that'll be good. This is gonna be a fun one.
Amazing.
So check in again
Yeah,
next
it will
week
be.
when we'll have Connor sharing a mindless marketer moment with us, which is gonna be a lot of fun.
I'll say yes and no more times.
All right, V.
All right, man.
Until next time.
Go chase
Yeah,
profitability.
it does roll.
See how
off
that just
tongue.
rolls
I
off
really
the
love
tongue
it.
now.
You too.
Have a great day.